Good morning. Uh-oh. I froze. Shoot. All right, cool. I'm back. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I froze for a second. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another kind of rainy, gloomy Friday edition of the Board of Education District 1 Community Coffee virtually. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know people are still joining, but we definitely have a hard stop at 10. The Accountability Committee has their meeting today, and it starts right at 10 o'clock. So I want to make sure I'm respectful of my colleagues, and I'm going to be zooming in as well. For those who don't know me, I'm Katie Howard. I'm the Board of Education District 1 rep. And as is my practice, I monthly have a virtual coffee. So thank you all for joining this morning. I do want to go ahead and give some updates that I like to share out. Oh, but before I get to those, I want to recognize my colleagues who've joined this morning. We have Erica Mitchell. She's here listening in. And then we also have, of course, Keith Glass from the board office, Tamara Jones. Thank you for being here. Travis Norvell from Strategy. And I'm sure we will have people from Family Engagement. I see them joining because they're so awesome.
Yep, and Keisha's on the call as well.
I'm sorry, who is?
Keisha Copeland, Family Engagement.
Awesome. Keisha's the best. Thank you, Keisha, for being here. So I appreciate them joining. I know Pierre's on here as well. Gaither with the board office. So they're here to support. And Keith is always amazing at, helping me manage questions and feedback. So thanks for working with us this morning. And I will go ahead and get started with my updates. I always love to start with student outcomes focused governance. We will be progress monitoring goal 2, which is around numeracy proficiency. We'll be doing that on Monday at our board meeting on the 6th. The agenda will be out this weekend. Encourage you all to go to Assembly and look at it in advance. But we'll be looking at goal 2 based on our 2 interim goals, which of course is working to make sure our kids, and for the main goal, 3rd through 8th, are proficient in numeracy. And in 2019, it was, unfortunately, the percentage was 35%. And the goal was to raise it to 45.4% by August 2026. So our interim goals are from 2020 to 2022, and from 2022 to 2024, pardon me. And we broke it down between K-1 and 2 to 8. So for K-1, we're looking at going from 45.5% proficient in May of 2022 to 51.5 in May of 2024. And then for 2 through 8, going from, unfortunately, it was 24.4 in May 2022, but increasing it to 30.4 in May of 2024. So we're coming up on 2024. I have already put my questions to the superintendent. I already have those lined up, and we'll be asking strategic questions around what is the strategy and what's reality for our students on the ground during the board meeting on Monday. But I've asked a lot of technical and tactical questions in advance around the data. So please, please, please tune in and listen. As you all know, hopefully by now, our progress monitoring reports are on the Board of Education website. You can see all this right there and see the work we're doing around students, which is what our job is as a governance board, to focus in on the realities for students, and around our goals on numeracy, literacy, college and career preparedness, and post-graduation readiness. That is our focus. And that also influences everything in the district. So please tune in. And then also, because I know we have a lot of questions, so I'm kind of speeding through my updates. With student outcomes focused governance, I do want to mention that I am participating in a 9-month cohort, which is a deep dive with a lot of coaching and practice in this work. And you all, if you have any time, just Google and look into it, but it is really transformative work, and it's definitely evidence-based, and it has been proven to really change outcomes for students. And it's happened in many school systems throughout the nation. And it's great to be partnering with other school board members who are doing the same work and have professional coaching. So I'm really excited about that opportunity. My colleagues are participating in training as well, and we're looking forward to getting a coach to help us do a better job of really honing in on this and holding our superintendent and team accountable with support. And the only way you can do that for sure around our goals and guardrails is to have the practice and information. So we also have a board retreat coming up on March 23rd. That is also focused on our student outcomes governance work. It will be looking at potentially resetting our baseline and our targets. So definitely tune in. There'll be more information coming about that as well. I will certainly be there. I will say on this call right now, I have no inkling that I will be looking at supporting the changing of targets for our students. We have definitely got to make sure that the bar is high, and we're doing everything we can to make sure our students are proficient in literacy and numeracy and prepare for college and career, and absolutely making sure they're prepared for life with what they walk away from with their diploma when they leave us. So that will definitely be a very enriching, important and critical conversation. So tune into that. I know everybody is paying close attention to where we are with FMP. I know you all have these dates, I'm sure, but next week we have a lot of meetings. March 8th, 9th, 15th. I will be at every single one. 8th is Jackson, 9th is Midtown, 15th is Douglas. You all, I'm sure, have the proposed scenarios. I will be on the virtual. I will also be in person in the evening meetings, and I will be there to 100% hear feedback from the community. And of course, hear from the administration on their proposals. So also want to highlight our breakfast with the boards. We have, as always, are getting great feedback from our high schoolers when we go to meet them at their schools and hear from them directly. Thank you, Keith Glass and others, for making this opportunity possible. And of course, our principals and leaders for letting us come into their schools during the school day, and the Student Advisory Council for taking a lead on this and bringing in their peers. We have gone to many, many schools, but I will mention the ones we visited in the last 2 weeks. Let's see, Mays, Coretta Scott King, Best Academy, Maynard Jackson, and South Atlanta. Our high schoolers are so impressive. They all want a high quality education that's enriching and engaging, and they know best what is working and what is not and what needs improvement. And I am proud of them for speaking up and using their powerful voice directly to us to give us feedback on those things, which we share with the superintendent, administration, and many of the team members from the administration come and attend. So I'm looking forward, and I know it should be happening right now, what action is being taken to address some of the things they bring up, both in the short term and the long term. And I always think about access. Obviously, that ties back to equity and how we're making sure that every student in APS has a robust, engaging high school experience, of course, middle and elementary, and knowing that once they get to high school, they need to be fully prepared to take advantage of all those opportunities and to be in a safe environment inside and outside their building. Let's see, I think that's about it. I sent out an update last night. Oh, and I also include the APS Now update, which has a lot of good information about upcoming summer academy, Recovery Academy, which was really successful last year, and Power Up. There's some additional things that have been added on around, I know, AP, IB prep. I've asked about what's being done for 8th graders for exposure for them, so they're even better prepared for high school and all the opportunities they can take advantage of. I will also mention that Parks and Recs is doing sign up for Camp Best Friends. They also have a spring break camp. Props to them for doing a winter break camp. So love that synergy between APS and the city of Atlanta. So yeah, and Hazel Health always had to promote that. We know we have a lot of work to do there. We do not have enough families signed up for that. We have a lot of education, and I appreciate family engagement working hard on that piece too. So if you want to get my updates, which has all this information and more, please email me. You can even email Keith. I will add you to my list. And I am going to take a breath there and start answering questions because for those who have just jumped on, we have a hard stop at 10 because of the accountability committee. So with that, Keith, have you got some questions lined up? And I'll let you go over our ground rules.
Yep, so as always, good morning, everyone. As always, we do ask if you do have questions, please raise your hand. We'll place you in the queue as Dion Brockington Shaw has already done, and so we'll get your questions addressed. We do ask that you do get directly to your question or make your statements, because again, we do have a hard stop at 10 and want to make sure that we hear from everyone, as many as we can. And so we'll start with Don, and then as more people raise their hand, we'll go from there. Good morning, Don.
Morning, Don.
Good morning, Keith. Good morning, Kate. You called me Dion Brockington Shaw. You mixed me up with Dion and Dawn. That was funny.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know.
No. Keith did. It was funny. No, it was
It's
not a
all
big
right.
deal.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
We're in
Keith,
different
he
places
called
on the
me
screen.
Dion.
Good morning, Dawn.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. No, so mine is really it's a simple question. And so one, I want to say, Katie, it was really good to hear you say that you are not going to lower the standards for our students, that you're going to hold true to kind of what we've agreed to. I'm really happy to hear that. My question actually is really simple, and it's to you. And I see that Tamara and I think Erica's on the call, but I asked I think at Erica's district meeting, and I'm asking everyone, I've asked Jessica, but the superintendent lied at the State of the District 2036 when she said that there were students, seniors at Mays High School that were actually in the Google Classrooms. They were going to be making $60,000 when they graduated. And because, of course, you know, I'm in the Mays cluster and I have a student at Mays, I asked, and they said, we haven't started that. It won't probably really start until fall 23-24 school year. I followed that up with a question to the district, and they actually had to go and do the research, and they confirmed that it was not true. So my question is, you're asking a lot of questions of the administration, but how do we know that it's true? Because when you start telling us the students are doing things and you're saying, look at all these great things, and it actually ends up not being true, that undermines the credibility of the administration. It undermines our confidence in what's actually happening on the ground. And so my question is to all the board members, and I asked this before, how are you going to hold Dr. Herring accountable for, to be honest, to be very direct, that lie to the entire district, to the city of Atlanta, to all of the parents, students, about what was happening with the Google certification class?
Yeah, I hear you. And I'm familiar with that specific instance because I've been reading your emails, and that definitely needed to be addressed. Across the board accountability, I mean, with the progress monitoring, certainly we're looking at real life data put together by staff. I do have faith in that data. I think you're talking about something that deals with communication around a certain program, and you absolutely deserve to understand the specifics of that and the fidelity around implementation. So, I mean, that is a part of definitely communication with the community and that engagement and follow through, and the board also following up on that. So know that I agree that you need to absolutely be told exactly what the case is. And it's certainly helpful for us as board members to continue like this, to engage with the community, to hear the realities about what's going on the ground from stakeholders, also from students, which is why I also love visiting with Mays students the other week. Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. We have got to be dealing with the truth, which is why I went over these numbers too around literacy, because they're real. So yes, I receive that, Dawn, and it is our job collectively to do the work, understand the realities, and ask the questions around what is really going on and what we're doing to address a cross section of things that our students need to be supported, particularly around our literacy and numeracy. And that program is something that was committed to. So we definitely need to find out exactly what the deal is, and it needs to be conveyed fully to the community. So I know that's a lot, but certainly we're working on a lot. But I 100% agree with accountability and follow through, and we have to be transparent and real about the realities right now.
Hey, Board Member Howard, may I add specific to Google?
Please.
So I put a link in the chat because I think once I heard the emails and the questions about Google, tried to do my own research. So In the chat is a link on the Google partnership, which are two different partnerships. One is a district-wide partnership and one is specific to Mays. You'll see both what the superintendent was referencing in the state of the district as it relates to Mays, as well as the entire district. I'll put my email if you have further questions after you review that. Please let me know, Ms. Brockenhinshaw.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Travis. And around the data too, we do ask questions that are more technical around that we need to be asking in advance of the meeting. And I want to get to a point where, because I know sometimes people have specific questions about, how the data is put together, what does it really who does it really represent? So I'm looking forward to us creating a space where board members can put those questions out to the public in advance of the meeting, so you can see what we've asked around those specific questions. And then we're up on the dais, because we have a limited amount of time, really talking about the strategy with the team. So stay tuned for that, but I'm always happy to share my questions in advance, and I'll find a way I can do that right now. But if you have any questions for me, because I know you're talking about feeling that you're not getting honest, true information, I'm happy to have that conversation about what we're looking at when it comes to progress monitoring. So thank you, Dawn. Who's next? Keith.
All right, so we have Dion, followed by King, followed by Waukesha. So we'll go Dion to King. Good morning, Dion.
Good morning.
Good morning. Multitasking again this morning, like we all are. Katie, could you provide us, I know Travis has always given us summaries for different engagements if we weren't able to make it, or like a frequently asked question document. And I'm really hoping that, I know, it's the season of lifting student voices, but when you have, elementary and middle school children, those voices are difficult to lift. And I do believe the board copies are great, but I know only that is a fraction of students who are invited there. So many times parents do have to lift the voices of students. So I'm wondering how we can get a summary of some of the highs and the lows that the students at the different schools and different clusters are lifting, so that we as parents can understand that and know if what's on our list and our kids' lists who aren't being engaged are being lifted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I will say this, I think it is a cross section of kids that are at the at the breakfast. I've been impressed that the student government and the student advisory council leaders have really brought in their peers from all different groups. So I think we are hearing a cross section of feedback that's representative of kids in the entire school. We covered so many topics, and I even summarized some of them in my update yesterday. I also
but the middle and elementary school voice and the concerns there, I guess, again, is there a summary that we can see, as we've done in the past with engagement, some of the highs and the lows, some of the things that you said you're working on? Is there a summary that we can see to see if what we're hearing from our children is being captured in those meetings?
So what typically happens, I'm sorry, board member.
no, please.
So what will happen once we conclude the entire breakfast with the boards, the council will come back together, and then they would kind of combine all of the feedback that they receive, and from there they would create this highs, lows, what some consistent things that been shared across the district. And so that information will come out later once we conclude with all of the breakfast boards, and then they'll make their official report out to all of the chiefs, Dr. Herring, and of course all of the board members. And so you should see you will see something later as it relates to some of the highs and lows that came out from the breakfast with the board.
Okay, so that report and that session will be available for all to hear?
No, it's only for board members, senior cabinet, and for board members to hear. However,
So
there will be a document of recommendations that will go out based off of the feedback that is received from the breakfast with the board. And so we kind of to guide.
So with the initiative of lifting student voices and a parent who has elementary and middle school children, and how how can we get access to the information and the list of concerns with these board meetings? Travis, is there a way in which we know that parent engagement is key to school success. So we are asking.
Let me
how we can
interrupt you for a
access that.
second. Let me interrupt you a second, because I want to make sure I have time to hear questions from everybody who has ones. I hear what Keith is exactly right. Like, they put together a really good report, the Student Advisory Council, that definitely reflected student voice from across the district. That happened last time, that'll happen again. I hear you asking about middle and elementary. I am very intentional about my engagement through our Board of Education District 1 and connecting with families across the district. And I definitely go into schools at appropriate times and talk with students appropriately and teachers and others, and definitely keep my finger on the pulse. And it's another reason I have this engagement opportunity, but I certainly definitely get out there and walk and meet families where they are. And I'm always working hard to create even more opportunities for that to happen. When you talk about a specific document that encapsulates all that, I think it's important for families to reach out, and if they want to combine information they've heard from other people, 100%, and send it to board members. I'm readily available and accessible. In terms of a strategy, I think that's something, if Travis has follow up on that from the engagement side, from the administration, great. For the board, just to put it out there, I've mentioned it before, we are looking at doing a community engagement plan that has us going out collectively as board members, like so many times a year by quadrant, like going throughout the city, so that we are meeting families even outside of schools and places where they are to hear feedback. So we need to be the ones getting that information, that channel communication. A summary document, that's something I'll let Travis speak for, and I think every board member kind of summarizes the feedback they're receiving. So I do want to pause there because I know other people have questions, but we can talk about that more later. All right, who's next, Keith?
Yep, so we'll go Akeem and then Waukesha. Good morning, Akeem.
Morning, Akeem.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Katie. So I want to talk about a few things. One, I'm gonna say that I've been trying to meet with you for about a month now, and we still haven't decided on the date. I mean, we're supposed
I was
to.
going to call you today, like I said, but yeah, I hear you. We haven't had a chance to sit
Yeah.
down. That's true.
And I find that very disheartening because I only asked for an hour of your time when we all have 168 hours a week, 40 of which you work, 40 of which you sleep, and then 40 of you have to do whatever. That's very disheartening to me because I've met with the vice chair, and I've also I plan to meet with the chair. I had the council meeting because I had a prior engagement, but I also met with other board members too, but I cannot seem to get on your schedule. You as my representative of 50,000 students in Atlanta Public Schools, I look forward to meeting with you on a more regular basis to make sure that you understand as a constituent how I feel about the way the leadership is being ran across the district. Now that brings me to my next point. Of course, everybody knows about the petition that has already started within Atlanta Public Schools right now. I believe it's about 850 signatures. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the comments on that petition. If you go to the petition and you read the comments tab at the top, it shows you exactly who are concerned. You may not know the person directly, but it tells you a name and it tells you a brief concern of theirs. One of it says, I want new leadership who cares about our children and communities. The thoughtless redistricting must stop. Another person said, I'm signing this petition because transparency, accountability, equitable allocation is necessary for a thriving school or district. The district plays a key role in establishing a culture that supports our children and schools. The last few years have been filled with disruptions and stress that has affected this community, including the last principal at Howard, who was fired. Recently, we're engaging with capacity issues, and when all along, that was a top priority for the cluster starting in 2019. The energy and resources expanded to address the key issues and the decision that were made to add a new elementary school to the cluster while Maryland and Hope Hill were still at 82% capacity. and Morningside at 103, Spark at 106% capacity. These numbers seem less pressing than the capacity issues APS is bringing up now. I believe this will further create stress, disruption, and focus away from what truly matters, the best learning resources and environment. I'm also of the opinion that APS should go through an independent audit process, including reviews on what truly stands at overcapacity and what stands at overcapacity and what has been done or can be done in the future in good faith and redistricting and rezoning as a last possible choice. So I say all that to say that there's a lot of people not happy with the way the district is being run by the senior leadership. And you as our board member, we're asking that you change that. It is Women History Month and we have a board full of women. We're calling on all of you all, not just one. We're calling on every last one of you board members to make a change in this district. We're tired of being lied to. We're tired of the lack of transparency. We're tired of Dr. Herring and her senior leadership team being so top heavy, meaning that they get most of our funding and the funding isn't trickled down to the schools. Our children can't read, which is why our crime rate is up so much. If they have a fundamental value, the human right of every human being on this call, they want to know how to read. They want their numeracy back. Dr. Herring has lied to our community numerous times. It's time for her to go. She doesn't understand our rich history of Atlanta, nor does she understand the backbones in which it lies on. That's why she always says we're in a city like Atlanta. No, we're not in a city like Atlanta. We're in Atlanta, Georgia, and we need her to step up to the plate or leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Akeem. And yep, I look forward to talking with you today, and I appreciate seeing you at meetings. And I also appreciate your Board of Education District Rep, Erica Mitchell, who I know is in constant contact with you. So appreciate that. All right, next.
All right, so we'll go Waukesha, then to Paul, and just FYI, the time is 9:28. We do have a hard stop at 10.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, if we could please keep questions to under 2, so I have time to respond to, please.
Well, thank y'all for reminding us. Katie, I want to recommend
Keisha.
that. Can you hear me?
Yes, I said hello.
Okay. Good morning. How are
Good
you?
morning. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I want to recommend that if you have hard stops, that you change the meeting so that you can hear everyone concerns, or you have maybe like a town hall or something separate where you can hear people concerned, because people, genuinely have some concerns that really needs to be addressed. So I would ask you guys to most definitely look into that so you don't have to rush, because we feel a little rushed when we come on to your meetings. Just 2 quick things. Can you give us a pie chart in layman's term of how much money from the budget goes to the schools, go directly to the schools? How much money goes directly to the top heavy leadership downtown, and so forth? Layman's term, it don't have to be nothing with, all these bullet points. Just let us know, because what we are understanding is it's not enough resources going directly into the school that will impact the kids. So that's one thing. Now, the other thing is, to Don's point about the whole partnership, $15 million was the ask. We got to be real here. We have a lot of partnerships. We have Google, Apple, AT&T, Georgia Power. We have those partnerships, yet our students and families don't have access. Can someone explain that?
Yep, I appreciate everything you brought up, 100% about the budget and the transparency. I have a lot of questions about where we are with the budget, and I have got all the upcoming budget meetings on my calendar, so I will be at them. And I think it definitely needs to be really clear to the community. And I appreciate CFO Bracken and the information she puts together, but how we can make that even more readable for everyone, understandable, and making sure, yes, that we start with funding with schools and that everything from CLL is in support of that. And that it is aligned with our goals and guardrails around literacy, numeracy, and we know the rest. And then also you asked about, I'm so sorry, the last part. What was your last question? Oh, partnership, excuse me. Yes.
Partnership.
Strategy, thank you. Yes, my question is always, if we have a partnership, it has got to align with improved outcomes for students, or we shouldn't have it. And doing obviously a cull through of everything we have right now. And then anyone we're bringing in, like that has got to align with our goals and our guardrails, period. I agree. So that's what I'll say right now about that. But yeah, I'm certainly paying close attention to where we are and making sure every partnership is strategically aligned with our goals and our guardrails. And then, yeah, the budget, we are in budget season. And I also mentioned that in my update. All right, who's next? Thank you, Waikisha. I appreciate you. And I'll be asking about the pie chart.
Yep, so Paul and then Whitney.
Hey,
Good morning,
Paul.
Yes, Ms. Howard, I want to ask a question about the movement of Children's Park out of the Jackson cluster. First question I want to ask is, what happened to the original plan, which was to move Dunbar to Washington? Second question, when I look at the growth patterns in the elementary schools versus the middle schools and high schools, I see a real gap. The elementary schools are not growing in attendance, but the capacity of Jackson and King are still stretched. So that suggests that the people sending their children to charter schools are maybe affecting this, and that maybe there's a lot of people out of the attendance area going to Jackson. I've heard often city employees and APS employees will drop their kids off there, and that's where a large part of their population comes from. And the final thing is, people in Joseph Park likes to go to Benteen because they were zoned for it, and they have a dual language program, and they're used to going to it. So even if the cluster move is done, could the people still be sending their kids there because of the dual Spanish program, in that Benteen will have excess capacity for a while?
No, a lot of great questions. And I think we should definitely have a conversation offline too. But what I can say is, certainly come next week to hear more from the administration on questions such as those. Obviously, the zones of schools impact their numbers too. And the zones of some of the schools in Board of Education District 1 are very small. And the zones for, as they normally are, for middle and high are bigger. And I'm always looking forward to hearing how we highlight, and I can tie that back somewhat to Dion's question about highs in our schools and with our students, all the great things happening at all our schools, including Carver and Jackson. So I say that because I think that's an important part of the conversation. But yes, you have some very good questions that you definitely need to put forth next week. I will be listening next week to hear feedback from all the communities impacted. So I look forward to seeing you there. And I'm happy to talk with you about it more offline. And then the dual language immersion, yes, that is a choice program. If people can provide transportation, their children can go. And that's been a great asset to the cluster. And I look forward to that continuing and actually growing. And we'll see, what the administration has regarding how that program can grow throughout the cluster. All right, so who's next?
Whitney and then Alicia.
Good morning, Katie. Thanks for all this. Just quickly, I saw online, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be wrong, but I saw online where APS put out a statement that they strongly oppose the city of Buckhead becoming a city, and that is going to pose a problem for APS. And it seems like this keeps coming up. And my concern is, and in the letter, the way I interpreted it and what I've read was that APS hasn't been part of those conversations. And so as we're talking about rezoning Midtown and Jackson and all these other things, like, why is that not part of the conversation? Because if that happens, I could foresee there's a whole nother rezoning situation, and it's going to affect the budget. It's going to affect, so I know that this keeps coming up and it never really passes, but it seems like it's being put out for a vote again. And it seems that if APS is at the table, that's kind of short-sighted of the city council to not include them, but also for APS not to try and engage in those conversations.
Well, I can just say in short, I'm very glad that that movement, I can't even really call it a movement because it's just some people at the legislature. It was dealt a huge blow by the Senate yesterday, so it's not going anywhere. I am extremely opposed to it. It has got nothing to do with serving people better. And I will just say, I don't think there's a willingness on the other side to actually have a conversation. So it's unfortunately something we continually have to deal with. But I don't think it's something we need to be focused on. And unfortunately, it takes up too many resources for everyone. It's a complete waste of state taxpayer dollar too. So as you can see, I am very focused on being opposed to that. And it certainly doesn't look out for taxpayers anywhere. But yeah, it is dead. It is dead right now. So I think we always need to focus on our students and our city and serving them well, especially with our good taxpayer dollar
No, and
across the board. But yeah, I don't think from what I've heard, honestly, and I have some pretty good intel, I don't think there's willingness for there to be a conversation on the other side either. And it would be wrapped up in so many lawsuits because nothing like it's ever happened and it's not prescribed in the state constitution. So
And
I think it's just
I'm
very
glad that you said that, and I agree. I think the disconcerting part about the letter to me was that APS wasn't at the table. And as we're talking about redistricting now, like, I'm glad it's dead, but I think that APS needs to be included in some of those conversations, albeit Buckhead or albeit something else. Like, I don't know why APS wasn't included in those.
well, and I guess ask the sponsors of those bills, and
Okay.
we can talk about that later offline. But I in terms of thinking broadly, yes, we need to be, but I just don't think that is something we can do the mental gymnastics and try to do future planning around something we just need to 100% commit to fighting because it's just not good for anybody. And the city
Okay.
is certainly opposed to it. But I appreciate you bringing it up 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Alicia, followed by Monique.
Hi, Alicia.
Hey, I hope it's okay. I'm the recording secretary of the Atlanta Council of PTAs, and I just wanted to invite everyone to our next council meeting, which is open to everyone. It's happening on Thursday, March 16th at 7 p.m. I've dropped the Zoom link in the chat. The council did meet last night, and based on the PTA's main goal of advocacy and providing a voice, we decided that this upcoming meeting will center around creating a working draft resolution in response to redistricting. This will hopefully lead to a meeting with the superintendent. So please plan to attend. Reach out to me with any questions. I've dropped my email in the chat and we hope to see you there. Thanks.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. And it's definitely on my calendar. And that's another great opportunity for engagement. So thank you so much and making that the focus. I think that's a good space for people to have even more conversation. All right.
Monique, and
I'm
then
Monique. Where'd you go? You there?
Oh, hello.
Hello.
yeah, hello.
Now we can hear you.
Hey.
Hey. How are you? Yeah.
I'm good. I'm at work, y'all. I wanted to chime in. I just posted in the chat the CTAE presentation presented last month. Among other things, me and Katie have talked about and others. And when I even came to the facilities management planning and helping understand rezoning, the one thing we did say to the facilitators was no rezoning. And I know you all promised a 1-year pause on rezoning conversations. I'm a little bit perplexed because in tandem, Carver Cluster just got our signature program approved, which is STEM, and not really a lot of community engagement around what that looks like. What are the pathways attached to it? Even board member Collins really kind of it seemed a bit confused on when the question and answer came, and she was like, where is Carver? Where is purpose-built schools, pathways? How are you all integrating? As you see from this picture, there's no mention of Slater. There's no mention of Price. There's no mention of Carver STEAM. And this has been ongoing every time there are conversations at the district. And when I just seen the beautiful newsletter you just posted about AP, we're mentioning KIPP We mentioned it, Drew. We're mentioning these wonderful accolades from our charter partners, but we're not showing, sharing, integrating data. There was supposed to be a data integration memo or what did y'all call it? Service agreement with purpose-built schools. I don't feel partnership when I don't see my child's school represented in any data, not on your insights page. I asked Dr. Herring to put it on insights. If you go to insights, there's no price data. There's no Slater data. So you wonder why zoning is going to be a push on March 8th in those conversations. We have to make sure there's data integration, and we need to be talking to the administration about how we show our data. You cannot push rezoning on families when you don't have knowledge, insight, or transparency about what's happening in those schools. And I don't feel like there's been enough conversation about how you're improving a school, because the state has programs where parents can pull the money out of a low performing school. So you're saying you're rezoning families from high performing schools to low performing schools, and then we're going to lose them and you're going to lose the dollars from the district because parents who know will use choice. So your zoning is only going to push more families away from the district as a whole and lose dollars. So your revenue is immediately going to be canceled because you're rezoning families where they don't want to go because you haven't done the work as a district to ensure 9 of your 12 cluster schools are performing better. We can't talk about zoning until you talk about what career pathway is going to be there, what AP class is going to be there, what is there right now. I've asked purpose-built schools to post their course catalog online. Currently, parents are in the blind on what's even offered at these schools. So I just want to name that it feels premature to be talking about rezoning when we know we haven't done the curriculum work. We're still in between on a lot of these issues. It's premature to have those conversations, and we're going to ultimately just lose family from the district as a whole, let alone those schools, but from the district. And you're going to have a lower, you're going to just have a lower revenue in general of those students, and they're going to pull their money from the state. So I'm wondering, how do we, number one, get information to parents about what's happening at these schools? Because it could be some great things, but there's nowhere you can find it. And I just seen some leaks Travis posted, but I think it's premature to be talking about rezoning when we know what the data looks like, or we don't know what the data looks like because it's not posted on APS and it's not even being shared with Dr. Freeman, who's the CTAE director, who doesn't even know what pathways or programs are being offered unless they reach out, or it's not clear what the data sharing process is.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I agree with you. We have a lot of work to do in getting information out. The partner and charter schools are included in our progress monitoring, but I hear you on it not being specified in insights. I will certainly, push that. And yeah, we don't. I mean, we're collectively, there is not enough information being pushed out about everything happening in the Carver cluster. I agree with you 100%. And my push is for it to be one Carver 2 in whatever form that looks like. I'll just say that out loud. And yes, there needs to be intentional work around that, because we know there's great things happening. People don't know. There are people obviously zoned who do not send their kids there for that reason too. So I'm with you, Monique, and I look forward to seeing how it continues to develop. So know that I'm pushing to make sure that information is pushed out too. So thank you for raising all those issues. All right, who is next? And I'm so sorry I had a coughing fit. I have this little residual thing that's annoying.
Yep, Courtney is next. Hey, Courtney, are you there?
Courtney, are you there? Good morning.
All righty. We'll come back to her. Akeem, you have another question?
Yes.
Well, has everyone gone? Akeem, I don't want to cut you off. I want to make sure I hear from everyone.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna see if we can get Ayana first and then we'll come back.
Akeem, we'll come back. I just want to make sure I hear from everyone who has a question.
Oh, sorry, this is Sarah Ziegler. I actually logged in through Courtney's link, I guess. And that's why I didn't know to answer, but I have a
Sorry,
question.
Sarah.
That is okay. I'm so
Definitely
sorry.
for me.
We just figured it out that I had used her link as a shortcut to get on this morning. Apologies for that. My question is somewhat of a follow-up about all these redistricting issues. And I'd like to better understand why it is that we are not, why it is that we are now moving to the annual review plan process, which just seems like we are going to be all so stressed out all the time. With that, why are we not working on 10-year plans that are collectively looking at undercapacity and overcapacity and all of the structural issues that are about that at the same time? It seems like all the planning efforts are doing things in isolation of issues that are fully integrated to each other. And all of the issues that are at the heart of why we have overcapacity and undercapacity schools deal with issues of housing and economics and all the other structural issues that we know play into the dynamics that we have in our city. And it doesn't seem like that we are having planning processes that are thoughtful and comprehensive and really addressing these together instead of almost putting neighborhoods against neighborhoods, dealing with things in ways that are not very thoughtful. Could you speak to a little bit about why we are not having a more comprehensive approach, why we are not doing it over long-term planning, and how we are going to look more at the ways that we can fully support the schools that are under capacity?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I think you bring up great points, and I'm looking forward to the undercapacity school conversation, which is going to happen later. These things obviously fall under operations, and I'm glad that the board clearly participated in the FMP process and our role in it, and that work is being done by the administration. So that's happening. We're going to have these annual check-ins is huge, and it's always been necessary, but I'm glad they're now happening. In the 10-year, I think those are great questions that need to be addressed this week. Like, we're having this larger conversation. Why are we doing it this way by people who have expertise in this area, which is not me. But yes, my role is to definitely bring back and continue to push and be engaged with the community feedback. Not that people can't directly communicate it, but that's who I represent. So, and what the reality is for them on the ground, and Monique brought up some very, real points. And just the long-term planning around that, from what I'm gathering, there are opportunities, and I appreciate the openness that I feel that the people doing this work at the district level have had on it. But yeah, clearly they have come up with some proposals, so we need to hear more from them on those proposals. And I think you bring up a good question around that long-term piece too. So that's certainly on my list, Sarah, and I really hope you ask that question next week.
So and it's just, it's not about just facilities. I think it's really short-sighted for us to be talking about like butts in the seats when it is about people's lives and their families and their communities. And it's just really a problem to not embrace the complexity of these issues and do the hard work that it's going to take to figure out long-term futures that support all of Atlanta students.
Yeah, and I think that programming piece is really key, which is why I'm glad Monique brings up.
Yes.
So yes.
Thank you.
And how we best utilize our resources and who we have and the things we can do with, our staff, our schools, and our partners. So I hear you. I agree. All right, who is next?
Yep, so we got Ayana, and then we got Amberly.
Hello, hey Katie, how you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Hi everyone, my name is Ayana Cotman. I am Barack and Michelle Obama Academy's PTA president. And I have to say, after this week and seeing the plans that have been released, I'm really disappointed in the administration's approach in the rezoning. Barack and Michelle Obama Academy only serves Peoplestown, and I have to say, one, I am glad that they are looking at balancing the elementary schools and looking at balancing elementary school zoning. That is one thing that we have had an issue with because we are only zoned for Peoplestown. However, because of that, in our rezoning plan, now it's saying that they are going to split our Peoplestown neighborhood, and the rezoning plan is having half of Peoplestown get zoned for Carver. And for a small neighborhood as we are already, they are really looking at pitting neighbors against one another, as the previous person stated, and it's just not fair. Our neighborhood is a cohesive group. Our school is cohesive and small. We're IB candidate school, you know, we have a lot of things in place. And for facilities to really, and this administration to look at just numbers and looking at seats, not looking at the livelihood of what's happening with those students, that is really disheartening. I'm hoping that, you know, over this next few weeks, and as the board sees this, that you all will see like how that is going to affect our community. I mean, we really need to keep our neighborhood together, and to seeing things like that is just, I mean, it's really disheartening. It really hurt. And I mean, that's something that I'm like, for City of Atlanta to have a standpoint of neighborhood cohesion, you know, that's one of the board tenets. And for just to split such a small community like this, it really just shows that there's no heart and no thought in this. So, I mean, I'm hoping, and I mean, want to really get your insight. I mean, I know we're going to be going through this process in the next week, but we really need to look at what that really means and how that affects families, and what's happening in our greater community, and what other strategies can be taken place to help alleviate some of that overcrowding, but not to split neighborhoods like they're saying right now.
No, I appreciate all of that, and that there are scenarios, and one of them is not that, in terms of the rezoning. So again, thank you for sharing that feedback. I think it's critically important to keep that feedback coming to the administration. And like I said before, really recognizing all this happening in all our schools, which knowing that, you know, what is possible, and just saying without even rezoning maybe. But yeah, you know, this is a process, and there, you know, surely are going to be iterations, and, you know, these scenarios have been put out. So the feedback is critically important, and bringing forth how we can be creative and supportive of what's really working for our communities and our schools, which are very tightly connected. I always keep saying that because I want to hear that from people too. I understand people being upset. This is, you know, very close to people. And I was around in 2012, and, you know, it's very real, and it's hard, and I hate it that it can be like this. And it unfortunately seems to always be like this. So I think people definitely need to be direct with their feedback, but also like, what are the possibilities? And that's on the district big time. So, but the community has a critically important role in that. So thank you for lifting your voice and always being in it and sharing and bringing others along too. So I encourage everyone to do that. And I'm here for the conversation, and I will be there on the 16th, but we can have separate conversations too. So I put that out to everyone in my Board of Education district around that work or conversation, because I'm not doing the work for redistricting. That is in operations, but I get the feedback and I share it. All right, so who is next?
Yep, we have Amberly, who's next. Good morning.
Hey, Amberly.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah.
I reiterate any points that have already been said. I missed part of the meeting because we had a program at Benteen, still at Benteen. But I'm Amberly Toole. I am the president of the Benteen PTO. And so I stand in direct alignment with everything that Ayanna just said about how we feel about the release of the 2 scenarios that are possible that directly affect our elementary schools. I've already submitted this to Let's Talk and a few people. The aspect of transparency in how we came up with these scenarios is very important to our community. And just, we know the background about rezoning, busing students. I worked in APS under 3 of the last 4 superintendents. So we are very concerned about the transparency of it. And we know that rezoning, busing students, the choice program, all has some type of effect, and a lot of it negatively affects families of lower socioeconomic backgrounds and people who are Black and Brown. And so is APS going to provide some insights on the demographics of the people in which they are seeking to move out of the Jackson cluster, because based on the demographics, our team has been able to research it. One of the main things about Benteen is its signature program of the dual language immersion program, and the sector of families that are proposed to move to the Carver cluster is 18% Latino Hispanic, where the parts that are supposed to move in from Parkside's zone is 3% Hispanic, and Hispanic and Latinos are very integral in the DLI program at the school. That is what makes it a DLI program. You have native Spanish speakers and non-native speakers coming together to create this program and this culture at our school. So I will implore the district to provide us with the demographics for this area, and then how they went about deciding these different sectors, and how they're going to rebalance the school, because we know that gentrification is not only a fact, it's an act, and it's happening quickly. As we've seen that the only full Title I schools left are Dunbar, Bamo, and Benteen in the Jackson cluster. And this was very different a few years ago when every single school was completely Title I. So we just want transparency, and we want it through actual factual information. And I'm hoping that you as a board member and the district can see that this is something that it's needed and that can be provided a lot more accessibly.
Yeah, no, and I mean, definitely those numbers are out there and available, but I hear you on being able to get them more easily. And obviously there are people on the call who can help provide that. And thank you for putting it in Let's Talk. Please put your feedback into Let's Talk. Anyone, everyone, any question, anything you want, the district can get back with you with that directly. I'm also glad you lift up DLI again. I think that's very important to lift up. And also the planning around that program, which is a commitment K through 12. So thank you again for lifting it up. And I want that to be highlighted, and what the plan is to develop that in the cluster. So, or what the plan is to develop that. So thank you, Amberly, and happy to talk even more and come to Benteen and talk with families. So appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Anyone?
Yep, so I see we have Kimberly and Akeem's hand. Akeem, if we could ask, please, if we could possibly just have Kimberly be our last question or concern for this meeting, and then I know Board Member Howard had to schedule a call with you today.
Yeah.
So if she
I'm talking with you today. I mean, if you're available, like we texted back and forth, but I want to make sure I get everyone who hasn't asked a question first.
Sure. That's, I guess it's going to be fine because that's what y'all want to go with. Even though I do feel like other board members, they have always going to stay over to make sure they get everyone's.
And I would stay over, but the issue is this.
No, it's fine. I just have a question for Keith.
Let me explain why we have this hard stop. Hold
Give
on
me one
Akeem.
second. Let me complete my thought, Katie. I
Well,
don't
let
want to
me know.
overtalk.
I want to answer that
That's
first.
fine.
hold on,
First.
Team, let me finish. The reason we have a hard stop today is because the accountability committee meeting was rescheduled for today. It is
That's
never on
fine.
because there isn't a quorum. I typically do go over 10 o'clock, and I'm happy to, if someone can stay on to help facilitate the call, but Keith helps me with that and he's got to go support them. So I do apologize. That is not my norm.
Yeah, and we have to end this meeting because we have to run the Zoom from from this account. And so that's why we have to end this meeting so that we can run the Zoom for the 10 o'clock meeting.
So I apologize. That is on us and that is not my norm. I'm happy to stay over. And I will be talking with you later today. And if you want to put anything in the chat, certainly you want to share with everybody, please do. But I want to make sure I hear from everyone who hasn't asked a question yet. And I think Kimberly has not.
You're on mute.
Hey, Kimberly.
All right, I do apologize. Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Sorry for the confusion. Just want to make some notes. I'm going to make it quick for your hard stop. So I listened to the things that everyone said. So my genuine concerns are, as everyone spoke about, is the rezoning. I have dealt with districts and advocacy for the Atlanta public school system for about 15 years. And there is a major concern of the interest of those individuals that are pushing this process. And it is not in the interest of the individuals that have been affected from economic standpoint, as so many have mentioned. Specifically, Benteen, I don't want to call you Katie, is a very precious to me because Benteen was scheduled to be closed about some years ago. And I was one of the main parents that spoke with the Board of Education at that time, District 1, that it was Leslie Grant at the time. And that school is the only school, they were trying to send it to DH Stanton. It was the only school that was equipped to teach our kids that are English learning English as a second language. And to now allow that to be an option versus prioritize it for what it was is not only disheartening, but there has to be, I wouldn't say a violation for that community because they need the service because they can't speak English. And to have to be bused there when they were rightfully able to be there and school buses gone there, that generally concerns me. And I'll just say the African-American community being divided from other communities or those economically not as stable as others being rezoned. I'm going to say what I feel people want to say, which is obvious what's going on. You don't want the poor kids or the non-affluent kids going to school with the other children. And this is what this rezoning looks like. And lastly, coming from COVID, we have some people that are struggling. I have come in encounter with parents that have children that have been in school for a year and a half. And I mentioned it to the councilman, I mentioned it to also Councilman Baltiari with the program that they have right now, that they have going on with the Board of Education, with the council that they have together, that we need some type of mechanism or resource because these children are literally not being accounted for, not being thought of, while we're calculating enrollment and things like that. And as one person said prematurely, we don't have the numbers. We just don't have the numbers. We haven't adequately done enough research to get those numbers to even think about having this conversation. So it's not you technically, so I want to make sure you know that, but I want to voice my strong concern for the issue of pushing this so strongly, because once you do this, the people that are harmed, it's not going to be permanent, but to recover from it is going to be devastating. And it's going to be almost impossible because those people are not here. Those people cannot speak. Those people do not understand. Maybe because they're homeless, because they're in a hotel, because of those. So when these people aren't accounted for, and people like me or the other people come and they speak on these things, someone, even though it's me and I have housing, someone has to listen to us. And you have to find them. It's our duty and responsibility as a government and as a people to look for them. Even if they don't know, we need to look for them. It is our responsibility. So I'm scared. And I'm going to say that because I've been through the cheating scandal. I've been through the Atlanta Board of Education suing each other on a lawsuit, for these things that are going through. And now we're at this again. And my kids are now out of school. They're grown and I graduated from college. But it is a shame that we're still going through these types of battles amongst communities when it's economic and it's black and white and it's just really poor and rich and wealthy and gentrification, when that is not the purpose of Atlanta. It is in the voice of Dr. Martin Luther King, John Lewis, and Atlanta being the city that it is. I think it's a total disgrace that we're even engaging our most vulnerable population, our kids, in this manner as adults. And we're having our own personal battles at the forefront here versus our genuine interest for our children at stake. So that's a comment, but kudos to you because I do believe you're doing all you can, but unfortunately it's not enough, but I know you'll do what you can. But the board, this is unacceptable. And until I can hear what makes sense, I am not going to accept it because I shouldn't, because I can't, because there are families out here that are not speaking and they must be heard because it's our responsibility to hear them and serve them even if we don't.
No, I appreciate everything you shared right then and there. I want to reiterate, these are scenarios. Nothing has been decided. So thank you for lifting all that up. And do you have the form, the one pager? I'll send it to you, Kimberly.
Thank you.
I want to make sure you have that information. But yes, no, you have extremely valuable history And I've been around for a long time too. So I hear you and thank you for sharing and continuing to lift your voice up for the community and being a part of it and being connected to so many different families, especially around Benteen. I do hate ending now because I absolutely will always try and stay on, but I know that we have to use this Zoom. So thank you all, as always, for your engagement, sharing very honestly and openly with me. I absolutely 100% appreciate it. I take notes, I follow up. I am looking to next week to receive even more engagement from the community, and know that I am open, especially around the proposals and the scenarios, to having individual engagement. Kimberly, if you have some ideas, let me know offline. I'm happy to come and meet families you're connected with where they are. So no, I'm always open to that in Board of Education District 1. And I look forward to us going out collectively throughout the city as a board to talk with even more families and share the work we're doing and to get feedback. Thank y'all so much. Y'all know how to reach me. Please reach out and have a good rest of your Friday and a good weekend. Thank y'all. Thank you, Keith, and everybody from
See
the
ya.
district, all the staff. Thank y'all.